Growing up in Vietnam, I would get letters from Santa Claus every year. Beautiful letters. I believe he was completely real. Years later, I realized those letters didn't just teach me about Santa. They taught me something dangerous about God himself. And when Nan and I had 4 kids, we knew we couldn't make the same mistakes.
Hi, my name is Nan Din, and this is my wife, An Tran. We're the Din family. We've been married since 2008. We have 11 kids, 2 in heaven and 9 here on earth. And we're trying to build a community of families who desire to raise great saints.
Every Christmas Eve until I was 9, a letter would appear. I don't know how my parents did it, but it was there, a letter from Santa Claus. And the message was always the same: be good or no present. So I was good. I tried hard to be good because I wanted those presents. And here's what I didn't realize as a kid. I was learning to be good for reward, not because virtue matter. Goodness become a transaction, a tool to get what I wanted.
Virtue became a means to an end instead of the end in itself. Then one day the truth comes out. Santa wasn't real. An's parents had been writing those letters the whole time.
And suddenly I had this terrifying thoughts in the back of my mind. What if God is like Santa? What if I've been praying and trusting and building my life all around it become not real? If my parents could look me in the eyes for 9 years and maintain this elaborate deception about Santa, what else might not be true?
And that's where the real danger that the church warns us about. Not that imagination is bad, imagination is beautiful. But outright deception damages trust. When children discover that Santa isn't real, some of them start questioning everything else that their parents have taught them, including whether God is real or not. God gets lumped in with Santa Claus, and we see that in our culture.
Fast forward to have a family of our own. Nan and I got married, and eventually we have 4 kids. And we fell into the exact trap that our parents did. We would go all out for Christmas present. 5 presents per kid, 4 kids, 20 present, at least 20 present minimums, that flooding our house every Christmas morning. But here's actually what happened.
The kids would tear the presents open, play for it for 5 minutes, then they grab the next one, 5 more minutes, then the rest. By the afternoon, piles and piles of toys shoved into the corners. Stuff we would trip in for the next 6 months. Things that would end up in our basement, taking over our storage space. Oh, and the battles, the cleanup battles. We have to hide the toys in black bags, drag it out when the kids are not there in school. So we were spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars every year to teach our kids that Christmas meant getting stuff, that love meant material things, that the more presents you got, the more you were loved. And then when these gifts also came from extended family and friends, it means more presents, more toys they play with once and forget, more junk. At one point, we try to manage it, and the kids would receive all these presents. Then we would say, okay, you can pick 1 present and play with it that day. The rest, they go into the storage room, straight to the storage. And what kind of lesson is that we teach? That here's a gift that someone gives and then it goes directly to the storage. That's when we ask the real question. What are we actually preparing them for?
So we try something different. We ask the family member gently, carefully, to give college fund money instead of material present. The logic makes sense to us. Invest in their future instead of something that they only play for 5 minutes or a few weeks. Of course, that didn't work.
Because grandparents still wanted to see their grandkids' faces light up when opening presents. And aunts and uncles wanted that immediate feedback, that joy, that excitement, and that thank you. You can't see the child's excitement when you're contributing to a college fund. There's no Christmas morning moment, no wrapping paper, no squeals of delight. So the presents kept coming anyways, which is fine. We're grateful for the generosity of our family. But for us, What we give our kids directly, we knew we needed something to be more intentional. We need to give something that actually mattered, something that would last longer than 5 minutes, longer than 5 years. In fact, we want to give them something that lasts for eternity.
That's when we discover something that most Catholics only think about at funeral, Mass offering. In Asian Catholic community, especially, Mass offering is a beautiful tradition. When somebody dies, you offer masses for their soul, to get them out purgatory faster, to give them grace so that they can make to heaven as soon as they can. But here's what we realize. Living people like us and our kids need the grace too.
Our kids aren't just going to face challenges after they die. They're facing them now, today, every single day. They're growing up in a world with more temptation than any previous generation has faced. More access to things that can destroy their souls. More pressure to abandon their faith. In fact, statistics show that over 85% of our kids lose their faith by the time they're out of college. So they need supernatural help. They need the grace, not just when they're dying, but now. And what's the highest offering that we can possibly give? What's the greatest sacrifice? It's Christ's own sacrifice, the Mass, the Calvary made present.
So that became our Christmas present for our kids. A Mass set specifically for their soul, for their future, and for their eternity. Do they appreciate it? Probably not. Not really. Our 1-year-old probably prefer a toy truck. And our teenager would probably rather get cash so that they can buy bubble tea or buy Amazon stuff.
So true. So true.
But we are not raising them for childhood. We're raising them for eternity. Because here's the truth. When they die and when they stand before God, they will see their whole life. And that's when they see that every grace that helped them, every moment God intervened, every Mass set that was set for them. And I think they're going to go back and say, that was worth it. That actually matters. We can give them toys that last for 5 minutes or a few weeks, or we can give them the grace that lasts for eternity.
Now, let's talk about Santa Claus. In our house, we tell the kids the truth, and that does not work out well with some of their classmates. Santa Claus was inspired by a real person, St. Nicholas of Myra, a real bishop who lived in the 4th century, a real saint who loved Christ so much that generosity overflowed out from his life. He gave gifts in secret. He helped families in need. He provided dowries for young women who would have been sold into slavery. He loved the poor because he loved Christ. That's the tradition, not magic, not elves, not a reward system for behavior, but generosity, charity, giving, and not getting.
So during the season of Advent, we have our kids pack food for the homeless. They see what it means to give than to receive. They learn that it is better to receive than to give. And Christmas isn't about them getting 30 presents. It's about them preparing their heart for something to give it to Christ. Because Christmas isn't about them, it's about Him. It's about celebrating the moment God Himself entered the world as a baby, the moment that eternity broke into time. That's why we are preparing during this Advent, not for more stuff, but for Christ Himself.
And yes, that also means no elf on the shelf at our house either. Because here's what elf on the shelf actually teaches. He teaches surveillance morality. The elf is watching you. He reports back to Santa, and you better behave. And that's not Catholic morality. That's not Catholic formation. That's behaviorism. That's reward and punishment conditioning. You know, Catholic teaching says that we form our children to be good because it's good, not because someone else is watching, not to get the rewards, not to avoid punishment. We want our kids to develop an internal compass, a conscience formed by truth, by virtue, by the love of God. not an external surveillance system. Because here's reality of what happens when surveillance reality, the moment you know someone's not watching, you do whatever you want. But when virtue becomes part of who you are, then it doesn't matter if anyone's watching or not. Virtue is its own reward.
And honestly, the whole elf on the shelf thing has become a burden for parents. Late night scrambling, try to move the elf in different places, or the pressure to create Pinterest level to make it more magical. Stress should not be during this season.
The church gives us clear guidance of this. Truth and honesty with children. Preserve the centrality of Christ and St. Nicholas. Avoid anything that harms conscience or distracts from the faith.
So, of course, in our home, we teach our kids about St. Nicholas because he was real. His life points to Christ. We give them mass offering because grace mattered to them more than toys. We practice generosity because it is better to give than to receive.
And we avoid elaborate deceptions that might make our kids question whether God is real or not when they discover the truth about Santa. Because we're not just decorating for December. We're not creating magical childhood memories. We're preparing souls for eternity. We're raising great saints. And that's a gift worth giving. So if you like this, click like and subscribe and join our mission to raise great saints. Please pray for us because raising great saints is extremely hard and we need each other. And we'll see you next time. Bye.